Welcome to episode 471 of the AM/PM podcast. This week I'm speaking with Rob Stanley. Rob's been in e-commerce since 1998. Started out on eBay, evolved, and he's worked for several companies within the e-commerce space. You might know him as the money man, but now he's with another company that's a competitor to Shopify. We talk about maximizing your LinkedIn presence as an e-commerce person or brand. Talk about some UGC strategies and a whole bunch more in this episode. I think you're going to enjoy it.
Welcome to the AM/PM podcast. Welcome to the AM/PM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
Rob Stanley, the money man. No, you're not the money man anymore.
I'm always going to be known as the money man.
Always going to be known as the money man. Mr. Rob Stanley on the AM/PM podcast today. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. Big fan of AM/PM podcast for a long time. Always wanted to be on it.
Oh, now you are. Now you're on the AM/PM podcast.
That's awesome.
This podcast goes back to the early days. This is one of the very first podcasts. Some people don't realize that, but there was like Kevin. I don't know how far. When did you get into the Amazon game? What?
I was in the Amazon game as a seller for quite a while, but when I jumped in the SaaS side was probably around late 2018, early 2019.
But so you're selling in like 2015 then?
2010 is when I started.
2010. Okay, actually. 2010. About 2014, 2015 is when really the current little FBA model of go to Alibaba and find something and put it on Amazon, that kind of started. But around that time, I think Kevin Reiser had a podcast. Scott Volker had a podcast. And then there's one or two others that had a podcast. But right around that time, Manny started this podcast to document his journey as a seller. There was no Helium-10. And I remember, I think I caught it or found out about it like on the 6th or 7th episode, and I started listening to it. And then, in 2022, summer of 2022, I've took it over. So almost 3.5 years now. Yeah. I've been hosting the AM/PM podcast. Looking the other day, it's like 175 episodes or something like that. Of the
several hosts.
Who knows what the future holds for the AM/PM podcast? But so you started as a seller. You were doing like YouTube stuff and eBay and stuff, right? Give us a little bit about your old school history.
Yeah, I'll give you a little background. Back in 98, I was selling, I guess I just went way back actually. Back in 1998, I was actually selling on eBay. And I was selling electronic parts, parts for Palm Pilots. Saw a business there to sell parts for the handheld devices, I guess we could say, which really evolved into opening a website around 2001 and selling just parts. And it kept evolving into these different devices, right? So we had the Trio from Palm. We had the BlackBerry come out. Really where it kind of took off was about it was probably July of 2007 when the iPhone came out. That I got a hold of that. We were already doing videos prior to that, but we were hosting them on our own website. YouTube, I think, was around 06 starting to pick up. It got really popular in 07. We put the very first video ever on YouTube of how to take apart your iPhone, and that just shot our sales through the roof. People started just coming over from it, the video, looking on our website. Of course, we didn't have parts then, but they were looking for parts to fix their iPhone, and that I saw as a niche that I could just jump into and just really take hold of it and start duplicating the model that worked. And that was, let's start making how to repair videos, putting them on YouTube and driving that traffic back to our website for people to buy the parts or the accessory or whatever they wanted for their device. And we kind of stayed in that sort of handheld space, which now would be pretty much the cell phone space. And ran that all the way until about 2018. Backing up slightly, 2010, I started a separate company selling on Amazon, I think Sears.com back then, all the old school places, right? Even Groupon, we sold to Groupon, and with a different business partner and I, and that was around 2010. By 2018, I had an option to exit the iPhone space. And at the time, you got to remember, like, iPhones were being repaired on every corner. So kind of the do-it-yourself wasn't really a thing, or it was definitely going away quickly. But our Amazon business was really taking off. So I wanted to get rid of the iPhone business, really shift over to the Amazon side that we'd already been doing, for about 8 years at that point. Had an offer from a competitor to buy me out. He just wanted me out of the way on the iPhone side. Went ahead and took that offer. And then within several months, my business partner on the Amazon side wanted to buy me out. So I said, cool. So I had actually double buyout in 2018, which was really neat. And then I kind of took about 6 months off, retired. And I was just like living in Silicon Valley, California, San Jose specifically. And, I was just like, I got to get back into this. My wife's like, start another company. I go, I just did 20 years of a company. I don't know if I want to do that again. So I was kind of looking at, I think it was like Angel List or something back then, had all the startups in it. And I came across this ad that was looking for a marketing guy, and it was in the Amazon industry, and it was a startup. And that's when I actually came over to Feedback Wiz. So that was the real early days. I was first employee other than the two co-founders. I was the first employee to get hired at Feedback Wiz. And probably a lot of you know the story from that point on. So I'll kind of just stop right around there. So
Feedback Wiz, for those listening and don't know, that was to help you get feedback. That's to help automate the process to get feedback, i.e. reviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there were several of those companies at one point doing that, where they'd automate the whole process before Amazon kind of started doing some of that. So then you ended up at Getita and had a good run at Getita for like
almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years, actually, almost 4 years, known as the Money Man, wearing the money suits at all the events. Yeah. And then now you've moved back, kind of come full circle to Mira, which is a software platform, kind of like Shopify, but more for people with large catalogs of products, right?
Yeah. So Miva's the platform.
Miva, sorry, not Mira.
Yeah,
Miva,
it's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. So I used Miva from 2003 to 2018. We're definitely a direct competitor of Shopify Plus. So we're enterprise level. So we go after anybody who's basically on Shopify Plus, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, any of those are direct competitors of us. And we're trying to transition them over. And one of the things that really sets Miva apart is, large catalogs. Also, a lot of the things that you'd want that you'd have to get, let's say, a plugin or a add-on to really make work, it's already built into Miva. So a lot of people are like, by the way, Miva's been around since 1997. So we were around before even Google started. So a lot of people are like, well, why haven't I heard of it? Well, it's because now you're going to hear from it, because I'm there and I'm thumping on the drum, making sure everybody knows about Miva and how great it is and what the difference is. But I'm glad you brought up, Kevin, the Money Man. I want to talk a little bit about trade shows. So some of y'all, probably a lot of you know me as the Money Man. What some of you don't know is I was actually the Feedback Wizard, which if you go look around, there's some photos, and people even have photos with me. So back at Feedback Wiz, I think it was pretty early into when I just started with the company. They're like, hey, we're going to this Prosper show, and you got to come with. And it was the first time I ever gone to Prosper. And I remember sitting there and I was like trying to come up with an idea, because they were telling me about trade shows. Now, I had been to CES and a lot of other types of trade shows. And Kevin, what's the one thing when you go to a trade show, the booths look the same, right? It's like same booth, right? And you occasionally get a salesperson or a marketing person standing out there talking to you. But I was just like, how do we stand out? How do we come in and do something different? And this is the precursor to the Money Man. I was like online. It was after, I think at that time, we were already after Halloween. And I was looking, I was like, what if I was the Feedback Wizard? And we came up with that name, and I was like, so I got this wizard outfit. The funny thing is, this outfit, you couldn't even tell who I was. A big gray beard, a big hat. I'm sure there's a photo out there. You got to just go look on my social media. You'll definitely find it. So we went there, and I think we ended up scanning something like 300 plus badges. People were coming by to take photos. People were coming by to say hi. They're like, who is this? And it was just such a hit. And I looked at how many, and they said, we had never got that many scans at a show ever. So of course, COVID happened as I was transitioning over to Getita and stuff. And, trade shows kind of went away for a bit. And I knew there was Prosper again. So Prosper was kind of my platform, actually. So I love Prosper. Big shout out to them. And so that was when they did the July Prosper. And I'd come up with this Money Man idea, and I was kind of just sitting on it. And I was like, well, we did refunds. Let's, money, that's all about money, right? And there was a couple different outfits, and I was like, man, I got to get a good quality one. So So everybody knows the Money Man suit is not custom made. I got that straight off Amazon. You can probably go get it right now. The owner of the company actually is now a friend of mine. But I went and got that off there. I show up at Yoni and Eitan's hotel room. They had no clue I was doing this, by the way. I told them, just trust me. I show up at the room. I have like 5 different hats, 3 different chains, all these like accessories, right? And we're trying to like figure it out. And I remember we got kind of the basic of it done. And I think I didn't even have the hat on. I had like a baseball hat, a Gatita baseball hat. And we go downstairs, and I remember Eitan in the elevator saying something to the effect of, this is either going to be a big success or a big failure. And I was like, and which is true, right? You were trying something really new here. We're between walking from the elevator to the conference, which back then it was in a different location, the Prosper Show was. I remember getting stopped by just random people, not even Prosper Show people, and taking photos. We get to the booth and it just goes nuts. I'm not going to go into tons of detail, but listen, that just became a thing. We didn't even call it the Money Man then. I think it was a couple trade shows in of wearing it that we really came up with the Money Man idea and just ran with it. So yeah, that's kind of the whole backstory to the Money Man. But what I'm getting at is that you've got to have a hook. So people that do these trade shows, they'll go in and they set up a booth. I'll see them sit behind the table, and they just expect people to come to them. The whole idea of the Money Man thing was to get people to stop, whether it's taking a photo, which gives me a couple seconds to give them a quick pitch, or at least tell them about the service I'm providing. Now, I'm not saying you have to all be the Money Man, but come up with an idea. Get something that basically will get somebody's attention when they're walking by. Now, somebody asked me once, they said, so Rob, when you're outside the Money Man outfit, are you the same way? And I'm exactly the same guy. So great example, I go over to Miva recently, and three weeks into Miva, they're like, come to the SEMA show. And luckily our CEO, he kind of knew I did a lot of shows. So at SEMA, I didn't wear the Money Man outfit. I was just me. In fact, I pretty much was wearing a red shirt like you're seeing me right now. And I'm the same way. I'm going to stop every person walking by. I'm going to ask them what they do in the industry and try to see if there's a way to connect that what we do can help them, like find their pain point and help them. So that's kind of what I'm getting at is when you go do these shows, a lot of people spend a lot of money to do these shows. You should be doing some promotions ahead of time of the shows, telling people you're going to be there, send out a newsletter saying what booth you're at, come by and see us. And then when you get to the show, make sure you're doing something to get their attention or stop them, whether it's a promotion. Some of the other companies I've seen that this always worked good is they would give away a really cool, expensive item, right? And hey, put your business card in or let us scan your badge type thing. Those are great too, because really as a exhibitor, your goal is to collect as many basically potential clients information as possible, so the sales team, if you're in marketing, the sales team to follow up with and try to close those deals. So, and I don't see that happen a lot. And listen, Kevin, you've been to a ton of shows. How many times do you see people just sitting behind the booth or not hustling out there trying to get leads?
They're just a lot. They're just sitting back there checking their phone or something, and it boggles my mind. Why would you pay? Prosper's what, $8,000, $8,500 for a basic cheapest booth, and it goes up from there, plus all your cost of electricity and decoration and everything. You're in this thing, well into over $10,000, and just to sit there and not have it boggles my mind how people expect anything out of that. I mean, you saw our booth at Prosper. We had a huge screen, 120-inch screen behind it. Next year, we're taking twice the amount of space, and we're not using that screen. We're doing something a little bit different, but it'll stand out completely. And this last Prosper, we did the passport game, where we had everybody running around, getting a passport stamp, which worked really well. And the prize was get enough stamps, you get to come to a podcast recording with me and Norm, a little party, and that worked really well. But yeah, trade shows, if you're those listening that exhibit at them, you got to come out. You got to do something that stands out. Otherwise, you're just going to blend in. And it's not just having candy or something at the deal, or a stack of brochures, or a pretty booth girl. It's a lot more than that. And I think that's where a lot of people are just drop the ball when it comes to. And then there's some I mean, you guys, when you were with Katita, y'all did a lot of trade shows. How should someone listening to this, if they're a service provider, they're actually looking to do a trade show, or maybe they're going to do a trade show for their brand because they want to go to the Pet Expo and promote their bully sticks or something. How do you choose what's a good show and what's a not good show? You talked about the one where with the feedback guys, you got 300 leads, but are those leads? I don't know what the cost of feedback whiz was. If it's $30 a month, if you converted all 300 of those people and they averaged 3 months, that's $27,000. Does that pay to be there? Or, how do you evaluate what's a good show to go to and what's a good ROI on a show? Because a lot of people spend money to go to these shows and there's no ROI.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. You got to understand, what is your lifetime value, right? You got to understand, okay, what's your average customer that you signed up? How long are they going to stay with you and your service? And what are you going to generate revenue wise off of that, right? And then you got to also factor in, what's the cost of the show? You got your flying, you got hotels, you got the cost of the show itself. So there is going to be a base price you need to look at. So for somebody who's, let's say, a service provider, and they're looking and evaluating shows on what they should go to and whether they should get a booth and how much that booth's going to cost. Yeah, I would definitely be looking at over 100 shows, and you learn quite a few things. It's even if it's a show, let's say even like PDSS, there's not a traditional booth like at the show you have, but interacting with everybody, getting to know everybody, participating in everything. There were so many times, I'm thinking back to, what was it, Kauai we just did, that we were we're going to be a part of everything that Kevin does. And we did that at every show. We were always a part of everything that you did because, okay, maybe it's only talking to one or two people, but if they're big sellers, which you bring in big sellers at that show, it only takes a few to make our ROI back, one or two. So really, it's something like a Prosper, it might take more, depending on the size of them. But you don't want to discount. Let's say it's a smaller seller. So let's say they're doing, $500,000. That could, a year from now, they could be doing 10, 20 million. You just don't know. So you really want to take advantage of just collecting that information. Then the sales team, which I'm not a part of, you got to have a good sales team that does sequencing, right? Sequencing, making sure that there's always a follow-up. Your name's in front of them. Now, not overdoing it, but you got to make sure. And then maybe, let's say after 3 months of sequencing them and hitting them up, if they haven't hit you yet, maybe you recommend putting them on the newsletter. And that way, at least they're getting a monthly reminder or weekly reminder of your company, what you guys do. Maybe there's a new update that came out, maybe a new service that you're providing. So ROI wise, yeah, I would say you want to evaluate what it's going to cost and what your lifetime value of your customer is. And then it's going to be investment. You're definitely investing in the future of your company by going to these shows if the payout's going to take a little time.
Yeah, since you left with Katita, I don't think they're doing any shows anymore. There are maybe one or two here or there, and they're not doing the newsletter. They're not doing podcasts. They cut back on a lot of that. So some people would say, why do you need to spend all this money and go and do all this? You can just do this on LinkedIn or on social media. And I know you've been doing some LinkedIn stuff recently and having some good success. And I see, I wasn't on LinkedIn for till like 2 years ago. I didn't have a presence at all on LinkedIn. I think I had 3 followers or something. And I noticed LinkedIn and X seems to be where the vast majority of business stuff is happening online. Absolutely. So I decided to focus on LinkedIn. I do a little bit on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, but primarily LinkedIn and a little bit Facebook. But I've grown now to close to 14,000, I think, followers on LinkedIn. So what is it about LinkedIn that attracts, our e-commerce crowd? And what are some ways that you've seen that you've been able to really ramp that up?
Yeah, absolutely. I really got into LinkedIn. I've been doing LinkedIn since Feedback Whiz days, but didn't really understand what I was doing. I got really lucky coming over to Miva. So our CRO, MJ, is our CRO over here at Miva, and he's actually been shown as a top 10 LinkedIn influencer. And I thought I knew LinkedIn until I met him. And wow, what a perspective he has of understanding the dynamics of what makes LinkedIn really work. So I'm going to give some quick tips. And these tips aren't for me. These are actually from MJ. And I started applying these tips, and I saw my LinkedIn just take off. Just all the people interacting with my post, the amount of people now following me, subscribing to, be a part of anything I put out now has just grown exponentially since I've done these changes. A couple things you want to do is, let's start with the first 2 lines of your post. That is the most important, and that's the hook, right? So you're going to have usually about 5 to 6 words in the first sentence. Then you're going to have a space, and you're going to have another 5 to 6 words. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. A, you want to have that 5 to 6 words because you want most people are looking at LinkedIn on their phone. I look at it on my computer and my phone, but most are looking on their phone. You don't want it to go to the next line. Plus, you want to have it where it cuts off to more, but doesn't cut off the word. So that's on the second sentence. And the reason you have that space is to push that second sentence down. Now, you got to have that hook. Things like X without Y, right? That's one of the formulas that's usually used. If you have X, you get Y, so you have this issue and give a little bit of, here's possibly the solution, because you want to get them to click more and read more of that article, right? Or that post. So other ones that work really good, like how I started LinkedIn, how I, did well at trade shows, right? So some of my posts I think it's on Thursdays, I talk a lot about trade shows and what's going right, what's going wrong. My Tuesday ones are usually a bit of an interactive of images. It could be something personal about me, but it still has that hook. So anywhere from X without Y, how I, and then fill in the blank, or the big mistake was, whatever was the big mistake. So those 3 hooks seem to do really well. Again, keep it under about 6 words, so 5 to 6 words max per line. Just try making that simple change. Even that simple change can really make a difference. Now, the other one, if you really want to get deep, first of all, I'm posting 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday, I'm always posting. I have a post that goes out every morning. I'm actually just using LinkedIn Schedule, which they don't tell you to use, by the way. You should be manually posting. I just don't have time. So for those that don't have time, use the built-in manual scheduler in LinkedIn. I think I'm like scheduled about 3 weeks out even, just because I'm traveling still a lot. But carousels, I understand how to make a carousel. It's got to be a PDF. I make mine in Canva. So the carousels, make them probably about anywhere from 6 to 10 pages long, but that main image on that carousel. So that's going to go along with your first 2 lines. So you have the hook, then you have a visual. So the visual is going to be also a hook. And that's going to get people to click on that carousel and look through those basically slides, right, of that PDF. You want a bold title, clean image, 2 to 4 words. Don't put a lot of text on that image. The whole idea is to get them with the hook of the first 2 lines, get them with the visual, and then have them click on your carousel and put really good information from slide 2 all the way to, call it slide 6 or something like that. Slide 7, I usually use that as kind of a wrap-up slide. Like, hey, if you want to know more about me, be sure to follow me. So that's another thing I would do. And then make it short, punchy, right? Make it a little bit fun sometimes. I've even tried some that are kind of funny. I wrote something up and I went over to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, make this a little funny. Let's redo this a little bit. Because I feel like if it always looks business-like, even on LinkedIn, even though LinkedIn is more business style, you start getting fatigued, right? Seeing the same thing over and over again. So I've switched colors. I've switched what I post. Don't just do carousels 5 days a week. So if you notice, I'm doing basically carousels Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then on Tuesday, I have an image I post. And on Thursday, I have another image I post. 2 different ones. Like I said, Tuesday's a little more personal. Thursdays are business related, but about me. So I have like past images of me in the Money Man suit. Even technically, there's one of me in the Feedback Whiz outfit. So you got to mix it up a little, because otherwise the algorithm just sees nothing but carousels and it'll start avoiding. Now, what is the whole reason we're doing all this? The whole reason we're doing this is because the algorithm with LinkedIn wants to see that somebody stopped, clicked more, and read more of your post, or they started clicking the carousel to read more of it. And then what it does is it'll send that first initial out to a small amount of people and see how they react to it. So if they react where they're reading it and they're clicking through it, then it'll start expanding who sees that actual post. And that's the algorithm you're trying to crack. Now, how does this go when it comes to somebody who has a product or a brand? just same thing. Talk about the brand. Maybe you talk about something related to brand. So I always like to use camping gear, right? Outdoor stoves. Well, you can only put so much about an outdoor stove, but maybe it's how somebody cooked or what somebody cooked on that outdoor stove, or here's the craziest place I took an outdoor stove, right? So it could be things like that. You can definitely vary it. AI like ChatGPT can help you come up with tons of ideas and different things that you can post about or talk about on any product or any brand out there. So you don't have to just be, one little niche of it. You can definitely expand beyond it. And think of different ways you can do it to promote your brand, promote your product or your service. And LinkedIn probably more of a service area. So you can promote your service and see who connects. And then the other thing is follow up. When people post a reply, try to follow up as quickly as possible within the same day usually, because then it shows that interaction, that back and forth.
You mean reply?
Again,
you mean hit
reply? Yeah, comment.
Yeah.
Reply to their comments, and then also go out and comment on other people's that are maybe in the same industry. Maybe they're somebody who is a similar industry but not the same product you're selling or the same service you're offering. So that shows also that you're out there actually working or doing stuff within LinkedIn. Now, time-wise, everybody's like, God, Rob, that sounds like this will take forever to do this. Set aside 1 hour every morning. That's it. 1 hour every morning. That's all you need to do. And you can do a lot within that hour once you get those things going, especially if you're using AI to help generate some of this for you.
And you've seen that grow your LinkedIn dramatically?
Dramatically. I've gotten tons of followers increase since I started doing this. So I think I'm on post 137, remember 5 per week, every week. And I'm at post 137 right now. And tremendous increase. I think when I first started doing this, I had 9,500. I think I had 9,500 now. I'm at 11,000 and change, and it's going up I think it's 11,500 as of recording this, and it's probably going to be up even more. And sometimes you get lucky and they just go through the roof, and sometimes they just do okay. But the thing is, you need to keep them going. You need to be consistent.
And it also helps for AI too, because AI is looking at LinkedIn, it's looking at Reddit, it's looking at some of that social media signals. So you can you've been doing it primarily for yourself, for Rob as a brand, or you've been doing it for the company, or both?
Specifically for the company. So everything I've ever done, ever since even Feedback Quiz, all my social media was dedicated to whatever company I was working with. Of course, I put some of my personal stuff in there if I'm on vacation and stuff like that, because I am human. But, I don't use it. There's nothing on there about politics or any of that stuff. I'm just there strictly to use it as a platform, because everybody in my LinkedIn, they're all handpicked. I don't have VAs from the Philippines in there. These are all like people I've been collecting and connecting with since Feedback Wiz. So they're almost all Amazon sellers, e-commerce sellers. So why wouldn't I tailor my content to the audience that's following me? And that's what people should be doing is take those items you're posting and make sure that there's something that relates. So right now, the topic I'm posting about is actually AI tools for e-commerce sellers. So those 3 days a week that I'm doing the carousels, it's telling you here's different AI tools. So I'll pick a topic. So let's say how to avoid fraud, right, on your e-commerce website. So, I will go in there and say, these are the AI tools that I've looked into. I go do some research on them. I make sure they're the right tools, make sure they're live, because so many tools come and go. And then I'll turn around and say, here's the tools I suggest. Here's a link to them. Here's the name of them. Now, I don't put the link in there. That's another thing, by the way, Kevin, don't put a link in your LinkedIn post. If you want to put any link to anything, put it in the first comments. I forgot to mention that one. Sorry about that. But go check out some of my carousels. They're all for e-commerce sellers, because that's who follows me. I'll throw ones that are related to Amazon. I'll throw ones that are related to even non-Miva hosting sites, and of course I'll throw a Miva one in there when it's appropriate.
Yeah, so if you're doing this for a brand, you can do it under your brand, or you can also get a brand account and do it under that. And you can do it if you're selling dog bully sticks, you're not going to do it all about your bully sticks. You're going to do it about dog training tips, or dog how to calm your dog down when they got the zoomies, which one of the things is give them a bully stick or whatever. But you're going to do informational stories like you said, how to, or do you have this issue? Your dog just won't be. You're trying to do work and it just won't leave you alone. Here's 7 tips. And, one of those tips is give it a bully stick. And, we happen to have the best bully sticks. So it can be very, very, very effective. Now, you're also doing some stuff, though, besides LinkedIn, which is more, I guess, business oriented. You're seeing some people and doing some stuff where you're using this UGC, like just massive Blitz kind of thing, right? Where you're seeing people that need to launch a new product, and there's a new strategy that a lot of people are doing is just blitzing the entire, like I call it a storm. And they're just making it rain out there by hitting everything. And I mean, Alex Hormozy did this back in August. If you remember Alex Hormozy's deal that he did in August, where he did $100 million, he was hitting, I think he spent $7 million is what some insiders told me on his blitz. And he just blitzed everything from YouTube TV to social media to billboards to Twitch stuff to you name it, and to get those people into to that webinar on that Saturday. So what is this that you're doing? Explain it to me, or explain it to the audience what this kind of blitz thing is you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm not taking credit for this. This is something I've been reading a lot about. It's called Super UGC is the name, but I'm sure it's been under different names. I mean, Kevin and I have been on podcasts together. I had Kevin on, and we talk about, it's so funny, Kevin, all these things that come back around, right? So, newsletters, mailers, I mean, all kinds of things just come back around. They throw a different name on it. I feel like this has been sort of done, but user-generated content is somewhat new when it came to social media. So that only goes back so far. So Super UGC, or Super User-Generated Content Strategy, again, I've been reading heavily into this, been really diving deep into this. So let's just kind of we'll go a little high level. I don't want to go too deep into this, but basically what it is, let's say you're getting ready to launch a product, a brand, or a service, right? You're gonna launch something, and it's new. So if it's a service, maybe it's a new service you're providing. If it's a product, maybe it's a new version of your product. So what you do is you want to go out there and find all these like micro influencers in the niche space you're in. So there's a couple different tools you can use. Modash is one of them. We'll find these micro creators. I'm sure there's tons of them. So that's just happened to be one that I've looked into. So go out, you find these micro influencers, and you get a whole bunch of them. Now, some of these micro influencers might just do the video for the product itself, or they might just go ahead and actually do it for an actual flat rate, or maybe they want a percentage. So you establish that with them, but you want to get a lot of them. Now, the idea is not just the micro influencers. Maybe you're going to do a press release on top of this. You're going to do anything from like micro influencers to a YouTube to promoting yourself. You're trying to think of what is the different types of media that you could hit all at the same time within, let's say, a 3-day to 1 week time frame, that it's just a blitz. Your name just comes up all the time in all these different media. Heck, it could be even mailers. Maybe you're mailing out something, a postcard mailer announcing a new product at the same time, and you're going to make sure it hits that same time that it's getting blitzed by these micro influencers. Now, you want to make sure that they have their own creative. So make sure the micro influencers do it themselves, do it on their own account, and make sure that it's authentic. You want to have them give their actual opinion on this. Provide some value and examples. You can give them examples of like, here's some scripts you can use. But unfortunately, if you do that, I would make sure the script's different for each one, because you don't want them all sounding the same, right? Then it sounds a little too suspicious and a little too weird. Then what you want to end up doing after you kind of blitz this whole thing with different ways of doing it is, kind of look at, identify the ones that did really well. And maybe you loop back around to those influencers and do a second round with them and promote it again. Now, what's the whole idea? What are we trying to do here? Well, I think you kind of already said it, Kevin. The whole idea is to have everywhere on social media talking about you, right? And of course, Google's going to pick up on this. All the social medias are going to pick up on it, especially if they see multiple people on multiple different platforms mentioning your product, tagging your product, talking about your product, right? And then it's just a big blitz. So it could be Facebook. Let's say there's people are posting on Facebook talking about it. People are on Instagram doing videos about your product. They're on YouTube doing videos, are talking about it. Maybe you have a podcast that you did or several podcasts that you've done, and you ask them to, could they post it that same week? The idea is that somebody in that niche space is, so, we'll use the camping one I always like to talk about, right? If I'm in the camping industry, I'm probably connected to a bunch of different like groups that maybe do for buying or they go hiking and camping. If I all of a sudden see like just massive amount of posts and videos coming out that are turned around and they're all talking about this one product, I want to go see what this product is. I want to go see what's going on. Why are people talking about this product and what is the big hoo-ha, I guess you could say, about this product. So that's the whole idea of the super UGC strategy. So that's one idea to kind of take a look at. It's been done before, but it's just, people kind of, these different things that work, they kind of go by the wayside and they come back. So I would definitely take a look at that again.
So how do you get them to all post around the same time rather than just, dribbling it along? How do you get them to all like focus it in on this like one, I don't know, 3 days, 2 days, a week, or whatever it is?
Yeah. So what we do would, and I've seen this done talking to a couple of people that have done this, especially when it comes to the micro influencers or micro creators, you already usually are going to be paying them like a flat fee. I would almost like, think of it this way, Kevin, it's a marketing, make it part of your marketing budget, right? So when you go to launch something, you're going to do paid ads, you're going to spend X amount of money. So this is just another thing you're going to spend money on. Go find these micro influencers, pay them, and make sure that they know like, hey, you're going to post these days, so-and-so is going to post these days, and kind of coordinate it. So think of it as a marketing kind of calendar. You're going to lay this out. You're going to even ask them certain times to post. That way it's all hitting and it's just being seen multiple times within that same, let's say 24 to 48 hour time frame, or maybe within that whole week. So you could definitely do it. It's just a matter of coordinating it and taking some time to really kind of map it out, almost like you would with a marketing calendar.
And you spoke about trade shows earlier, but what about events? You guys at Miva hosted an event. I guess your next one's coming up, in March? Is that right? Of next year? What's that event about?
Yeah, so it's called Camp Miva. It's actually been around, a long time. I remember doing it, let's say, I think the first one I went to back in the day was 2009. And Camp Miva has been around a long time. So it's a kind of a specific industry event where we bring a lot of our people who are on our platform in and kind of tell them about what's coming out new from Miva. And also we bring in a bunch of people to come talk about different subjects. So there could be somebody in there talking about, let's say, using images, AI images to turn around and make different lifestyle images out of your product, right? Isolating your product in an image and turn around and making lifestyle images with that. So, which, by the way, just to bring that up, have you played around yet with Gemini, the nano banana?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Oh my God, so good. Not to get off track from Camp Miva, but man, that was so cool. I took a product that I just went and randomly brought off Amazon, isolated it, and started making like different things. Then I took myself and started isolating it in different scenarios. Anyways, back to Camp Miva. Camp Miva is an industry event for Miva customers or anybody in the e-commerce industry that wants to come learn about not just Miva, but just great clients. We had Steve Simonson came in, did a great presentation. John Lawson came in. Eddie Malouf, if you're familiar with Eddie, talked about paid ads, what people are missing. I had Brian Kelsey come in and talk about TikTok Shop and absolutely just demolish the whole place. A lot of these people they're usually niched into the Miva platform. And, we're there to try to provide them that, hey, there's a lot of solutions out there, a lot of people out there, and a lot of information out there other than just Miva. And even actually, I had Jamie Davidson come in and speak. And of course, a lot of people were asking Jamie about, how to get on Amazon. So it was pretty interesting. I really got a hold of it. I've been attending it for many years. And now that I'm on the other side of the fence and not a customer and I'm an employee, our CEO, Rick Wilson, I've known for many years, kind of gave me a really kind of just, Rob, how would you make this show better? And we absolutely crushed it. We got a lot of people. I think we had, now remember, this is very industry specific for us. So we got like 150 people to show up. This is only the second one they've done since COVID. And I think this year we're going to have probably 200 to 250 people show up to this. Unfortunately, I'm going to mention this right now. It is the same time as Prosper, which on the last day of the Miva show, I'm jumping on a flight and coming out to Prosper to at least see everybody for a day or two. I think that's on the 11th. So you can, if you want more information, you can look at campmiva.com. We're just getting that website kind of re-going for the 2026 show that will be coming up, and we'll start posting who's going to be speaking and some of the tracks you can do. It's a great event, but if you're in that Amazon industry, you'll probably end up at Prosper, and that's okay. That's okay.
So what you talked about Miva as a tool. Explain again a little bit about how it's different than Shopify. Why should someone? Because right now there is a big push to a lot of people that are selling on Amazon. Like they need to become omni-channel. They need to get out and they need to actually get onto Shopify or get onto TikTok Shop, or maybe it's Walmart or something else. But I think it should be TikTok Shop for discoverability than a Shopify or similar WooCommerce or similar site. Why should some of the sellers listening to this, maybe instead of doing Shopify, why should they consider taking a look at Miva? Who would be the right fit for what Miva can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're on Shopify Plus specifically, if you're on regular Shopify, we're probably not the right fit for you. We are enterprise level, which also means there's a price tag that goes with that. We are cheaper than Shopify Plus, and we're going to offer a lot more plugins. So if you are a large catalog, let's say if you're doing probably about $1 million a year on Amazon or on just wherever you're selling, basically, even if it's Shopify Plus, if you're $1 million and up a year, if you're looking for a lot more integration that works together, if you're looking for, let's say you have to have automotive space in your year, make, model. You sell windshield wiper blades, and you're like, man, I have to have year, make, model for each of these wiper blades. We have that already built in. Large SKUs, we have one of our customers is already over 2 million SKUs on our platform, and it runs perfect. You're welcome to go to g2.com, take a look at how we perform against. By the way, we beat all of them on performance, speed, reliability, customer satisfaction. But to break it down, if you're doing basically about $1 million up, and let's say you need ERP integration to your catalog, or you have a large SKU count, and you're looking for a reliable US-based customer support, US-based company, US-based servers. We're all in the US. Our developers are US, by the way. So we tend to lean a little more towards the automotive industry, but it can work for anything. We have a bunch of textile people, because anything that requires, let's say, a variation. I'm trying to push us into the pet industry. So I'm sorry, on the textile, you have small, medium, large, extra large, triple X, and all these different colors. We have that capability already built in. And then the pet industry, the pet collars could be anything from small, medium, large to extra large, red, white, blue, yellow, green, whatever, sparkly. We have that already built in. But again, probably more if you're in the Shopify Plus, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Magento. Take a look as an option. You can always hit me up. Happy to give you more specifics on your particular company and if it's a good fit, and schedule something with one of our salespeople.
What have you seen since you got into e-commerce back in 1998, but more specifically probably around 2015, 2016? What have you seen change in these last 10 years? Like, what's radically shifted and changed? And then where do you see this going?
Yeah, the easy answer is to say AI, but I'm going to say social media. Social media platforms going from just posting, hey, I took my dog for a walk, or I'm eating pizza, to now more of a sales platform. You've definitely seen a big shift of that social media being just like, here's what I did today, to a selling platform. TikTok really jumped in and took over that whole with TikTok shops. And a lot of them are catching up to that. Hearing something about Instagram now starting to do something similar to TikTok shops. I'm sure we're going to see it with, Facebook's got Facebook Marketplace, but I'm sure they're going to transition into there. Then I see things like, Amazon's probably going to try to shift somewhat back to go after TikTok, right? Like there's a whole thing there. So besides that, AI's been revolutionary. Especially from a marketing point of view, from even a brand point of view, I see so many brands taking advantage of AI and AI tools. One of my favorite, by the way, would probably be a couple things for a brand. If you're looking to do something, let's say with blog articles, because you should have blog articles going out, take a look at Byword, BYWRD.ai. probably one of the best ones out there for writing blog articles, great SEO. I know there's probably different ones and more of them out there. That happens to be one that I really like. We talked about Gemini already when it comes to images, isolating that image and putting it into lifestyle. Heck, you almost don't need a photographer nowadays. You just take a picture with your phone and it'll clean it up and then turn around and put it into any scenario you want. But I do want to mention, though, Kevin, and that is the Geo, right? So if you're not familiar with generative engine optimization, Geo.
Some people call it AEO or AIO.
Yeah.
There's different acronyms for it, but it's all answer engine optimization. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go over the basics of what this is. So, for instance, one of the things people might do is going back to my camping thing. They might say, maybe my brand's called XYZ. Who's similar to brand XYZ in the camping space in ChatGPT? And it's going to come up with a list. It's going to have a listed there. Now, you want to make sure that if somebody mentions somebody else's brand and says who's similar to their brand, you want your XYZ brand to come up. So think search engine optimization for AI, basically, is the best way to put it. You want your name and your brand to come up in certain scenarios when it pertains to somebody looking up, whether it's looking up for something similar to, say, a Shopify Plus, or it's looking up something that's similar to why is this camping stove better and who else has something like it. So what I would do is that's the basics of kind of the Geo, I call it, generative engine optimization. Take a look at. So we actually just signed with Zoma.ai. So Max Sinclair's been around a long time. He's been doing some really cool tools. I've had him on my podcast before. Zoma.ai will help you basically show up. So if you're not showing up under certain keywords that people are typing in when they're doing AI or asking AI, and by the way, this also you can do it with, if not mistaken, Rufus is one of the ones he can do it with. I think even Google AI search, he can help you show up in there. So take a look at that tool. There's so many great tools out there, and I'm sure there's others that do it. What have you seen, Kevin?
Yeah, Zoma, Max is one of the leaders. They just changed the name to that. It used to be, they started as a photo,
content.
but EM content as a photo thing, and they've made that switch. And interesting you say that. Norm Farrar and I have a company called Dragonfish that does that exact same thing. It's not a software tool that you just go and do it yourself. Is that we do that for you. We do AEO, both on Amazon and off Amazon, full optimization, and getting you ranked in all 7 of the frontier platforms and beyond. That's something that we do. We just started doing that back in September.
Excellent.
With
check out Dragonfish then.
Yeah, it's dragonfish.co. And we also do email for people. So those we found that those are the 2 weaknesses. There's tons of people doing PPC, tons of people doing all these other things, but no one for e-commerce sellers is really focusing. Well, there's not I can't say no one. Very few people are focusing on the AEO or GEO, as you call it, or the email side. So that's what Dragonfish is doing as well, because it's an interesting time to it's a small the GEO stuff is a small percentage of everything right now, but it's rapidly growing. And it's not Murphy's Law is that in technology everything doubles every 18 months, but if you look at some of the linear curves of how fast things are going, it's basically everything doubles or triples in 6 months. And it's moving super, super fast, and it's hard to keep up with what's working and what's not working and what's the latest way to get ranked. But I agree with you that more and more people are going to be going to ChatGPT, for instance, and typing in what's the correct windshield wiper for a 1967 Ford Mustang XY32, and especially if I live in this climate or something, and it's going to come back and recommend something, and you want to if you're on Miva, you want to make sure it's recommending your link straight into Miva for that. And that's different than just going and typing in to Google and having to search around and try to find the right one, look at 10 different ones until you find the right one. It's going to hone in on it better, and you want to be that answer. And I liken it to, right now, I think the opportunity in that is similar to Amazon 2013, 2014, where if you were selling vitamin C serum, you could put up a private label of vitamin C serum, get on Amazon 2013, 2014, you might have been selling a couple hundred units a week or something at that point. Now you're selling a couple hundred units an hour or whatever, because Amazon's grown so much, and you have a moat around you with reviews. And I think the same thing is true with GEO, or I call it AEO. If you get optimized now, you're going to ride that wave. It's not going to add a huge amount to your bottom line, a little bit if you do it right, but it's going to be becoming more and more and more and more important. And I think everybody needs to be paying attention to that. So that's my take. Now, you've got a couple other cool tools that you've stumbled upon, right? You said Nano Banana and Zoma is a good one. What else are you messing around with these days?
Yeah, we talked about the byword.ai for blogs.
That's a good one.
That's been around a while. A oldie but a goodie still is Opus.pro, or Opus Clips. Still a great one to use. A lot of people still use it. I use it in our marketing quite a bit. I'm still a big fan for podcasting on StreamYard because I can literally, just schedule it to go up, get clips. Actually, it's funny because StreamYard's actually doing AI clips now, just like Opus does. So it's got that built in now. So that's one that I've been using quite a bit. I want to give you a crazy Chat GPT story, not necessarily related to e-commerce, but just what you can do with it. And I'll make it short. So my wife and I moved to Arizona here a couple of years ago, Phoenix area, and we're living in one of our rentals, and we've been, looking for houses. And I was like, but I don't know Phoenix all that great. So I had ChatGPT. I actually put enough information in ChatGPT that it helped me based on what my criteria was to help me figure out what area I wanted to live. Then it started even going down further into what communities I should live in based on my criteria. Give you the basics of the criteria. You want to live in a gated golf community is what my wife and I both golf. So, it actually broke those down. So then I was able to take that information, go over to realtor.com and start looking at those areas and keep an eye on houses. So here's a crazy thing. We got about 3 months ago, we were going to make an offer on a house. I found out there was a GPT in ChatGPT that I could use that would help me make the offer, in the sense of at least help with what it understood, going out and checking all the dynamics of who's selling in that area, how much is it selling for, what are some of the issues. Long story short, we ended up getting that house. We ended up not closing on it because there was more issues than they were willing to step up and help take care of. And then a couple of houses later, just about a week ago, as of this recording, a week ago, we actually closed on a house, but I had it actually help me with the offer. I knew what offer I wanted to make, and it kind of told me like, that's a really either great offer, or you're too low, or hey, that you probably won't get accepted if you do that. And then, when we went through basically getting inspections and stuff, I was uploading the inspection reports, and it was helping me, pinpoint the different things we might want to look for and ask for when we were closing. So just different ways you can use ChatGPT, and how AI is really just expanding out there so quickly and just capable of so much. Another crazy one, I went through my kitchen one night and I told into my phone to ChatGPT all the different ingredients I had, and it helped me make a meal. I mean, just from basically putting all the different items I had. It's crazy how AI is just going absolutely nuts. You and I have talked about AI a bunch, but just a fun couple.
That's
fun
just touching the surface of what it can do.
Oh,
but like you said, the agentic stuff and what's coming is pretty mind blowing, and I follow it. I'm on the cutting edge of it, and I follow it quite a bit, and it's very impressive where we're headed. And here, I'm here. You're in Phoenix. We have the Waymos. You have them too.
Yeah.
There, I think y'all are a little bit more expanded. You can do the entire city pretty much in Phoenix. My understanding is they don't go on the freeways, so they'll take the streets with all the lights. But here in Austin, we have Waymo, and they just expanded. It was just doing the downtown area, and then it just expanded out. And I was like, I don't know if I'd trust to get in one of these driverless cars. And then I got a Tesla, and it has the full self-drive on it. And I'm sitting behind the wheel, and so I have some control if something goes wrong. But I've been thoroughly impressed with how good it is. And so I totally trust the Waymo now way more than I would have ever trusted it before having my own driverless car. But and you're going to see that there's going to be driverless e-commerce too coming, where you're just going to hit a couple buttons and approve a few things and dig in when there's a problem and sort that out. But on one of the other podcasts, I had someone on that they're like, I think there's going to be a $30 million 2 or 3 person company easily in the Amazon space, working with agents that are doing a lot of the stuff. So it's exciting time to be in e-commerce. Things are changing, but it's still a great place to be. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you coming on, man. If people wanted to reach out, I'm sure they could find you on LinkedIn, right? You got 11,000 people there. How do they reach out to you if they want to check you out or learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. You can. I'm on all social media platforms. It's I think all of them are set up as Rob Stanley, ROBSTANLEY. Just search Rob Stanley on any of the platforms. Look for the bald guy. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, pretty much name it, I'm on there. And you can just message me directly through any of those platforms. Happy to answer any questions. And yeah, that's the easiest way to reach out to me. Always happy to, give any advice, tell you what I'm working on, the latest thing. Follow me on LinkedIn for all the great, AI posts I'm doing regarding e-commerce and different tools out there. Kevin, I mean, the whole idea of coming on these shows for everybody, if you kind of look at what Kevin and I talk about and what we're kind of saying, it's keep up, pay attention, stay up. So if you're a brand and, it can be something as simple as a candle company making candles, which you think is not very sophisticated, but there's a lot you can do with that. And there's so many AI tools out there and so many tools in general that you got to stay up with what's going on out there or you're going to get left behind. And I think that's been true with yourself and myself, even Kevin. We've been in this industry a long time. And I'm always looking to evolve, looking to learn anything new out there and try to stay current as I can.
Yeah, and one thing that's, we're talking about the GEO, one thing that's important in GEO is authority, either for yourself, if you're a content creator or an educator, or for your brand. And one of the best ways to get authority is through video and through podcasts. Podcasts are a major feeder for GEO engines and what they're indexing. So if you're listening to this, get on maybe start a podcast for your brand, or if not, get on as many podcasts as you can, either on your behalf, if you're trying to get your own personal brand out there, or on the company's behalf to get it out there. It can be a major mover of the needle when it comes to GEO. It's just one of the major movers. But Rob, I really appreciate you coming on today. I'm sure I'll see you at that Prosper show when you're popping out there for a day. We have a booth there, or if not, I'll probably see you for a cigar or something sometime before then. But I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate being on, and always a big fan of the AM PM podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Always fun to talk to some e-commerce old timers that have been doing this for a while. Rob's a good guy. Make sure you follow him on LinkedIn for the latest strategies of what's working in e-commerce and beyond. Don't forget, also make sure you subscribe to the $1 Billion Sellers newsletter, billiondollarsellers.com. And also coming up in just a couple weeks is Market Masters in Austin. You can go to billiondollarsellersummit.com and check that out. It's one of the most game-changing events in the entire space. Market Masters happening, the third one, just a couple weeks here in Austin. We'll be back again next week with another awesome episode of the AM PM podcast. Until then, have a great weekend and rest of your week.